My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, we're going to be talking about what it's like living in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, the way these videos usually work is they kind of turn into kind of a pro and a con kind of a video, and we're going to be doing something pretty similar to that. And really trying to give you an idea of whether or not Anchorage is going to be a good option for you. Now, keep in mind, Anchorage is definitely not the only option in all of Alaska. I've seen a number of people who kind of turn their decision into whether Anchorage or nothing is going to work. And it's like, well, there's more options. You know, it's not just Anchorage up here by itself. A big portion of the population lives there, not the entire state to say the least, though. Before we get started, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, and let's go and jump into today's video. Now, first off, I'm going to say on the pro column that it is actually a pretty beautiful area. You've got mountains all the way around. You do have I'm going to say the inlet. Ocean is a strong word, but you do have the inlet right there, and that's kind of nice. You also do have like some forests, and you've got the rivers and all that around here that kind of go through the city. And I mean, it does have a lot of good natural beauty there. So yeah, I'm definitely going to put that in the pro column. I'm going to also say that the climate is actually more mild than a lot of what you're going to see for what you would normally think of Alaska. When people think Alaska, they're thinking life below zero, and they're thinking all these reality TV shows where they're making it sound like every day it's -50, and that is just not the reality, and it is definitely not the reality around Anchorage. The climate is much more mild there, and the winters are going to be shorter in that you are going to have less time where there's going to be less sunlight. I'm sorry if that was confusing the way I said that. But the winters are going to be a little less as well when it comes to how much time it's going to be cold, and the snow is going to melt off a little bit faster. I can say this as someone who lived over in the Mat-Su Valley. You could definitely tell the Mat-Su Valley kept its snow a couple weeks longer than Anchorage did, and that's just like 30-40 minute difference. Like it makes that big of a difference just on where you're at. Another big pro that you have going for you if you live in Anchorage is that there is no sales tax. Now, before we get too excited about this, the taxes are set off, offset in different ways. So yes, there's no sales tax, but they make up for it in different ways, and we'll get to that later on here. The third thing that most people really like about Anchorage is the job opportunities out here are much higher than what you're going to have in most other parts of Alaska. Depending on the industry, obviously, but by and large, there's going to be more options available in Anchorage because you get a higher concentration of people, and that does naturally result in more services being needed and more industries that are brought in to service those people and make sure that they're taken care of. So for that reason, you are going to see more opportunities in Anchorage. So you actually do have a lot of people, whether they live in Anchorage or not, that are actually going to work in Anchorage, and possibly they'll live outside of it, or they can live in Anchorage as well. But yeah, you're just going to see a much wider variety of opportunities available to you in Anchorage than what you're going to find in just about any other part of Alaska. Another big pro that Anchorage has going for it is that it has a lot of cultural diversity. If you can imagine some corner of the world or some culture, the chances are that it is going to be here in Anchorage in one way or the other, right? Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely incredible how much diversity we do have up here. And I know there's kind of a reputation of, Alaska is just all, white people up here, but you really need to spend some time in Anchorage because, you really get an appreciation for how untrue that is. Now, no list about the pros and cons of Anchorage is going to be complete without saying that your opportunity for outdoor recreational activities is going to be pretty high in Anchorage because you've got camping, you've got fishing, you've got biking, you've got all sorts of things that you can do. If you're looking for just kind of some fun activities you can do that's still inside Anchorage, you might go check out like Kincaid Park, Baldy, Float Eagle River, Campbell Creek. There's just a lot of different places you can go, Beluga Point. So there's a lot of great places you can go for scenery or to go hiking, fishing, whatever it is that you're into. So yes, the activities are there. You also get a lot of opportunities to get some wildlife encounters. Now this can be a pro or a con depending on how you look at it. But if you're wanting to see moose and bear and bald eagle, then yes, Anchorage is going to be a good location for you. Not as good necessarily as all these other places, but if you want something that's a little bit more urban, a little bit more convenient, while still having the opportunity to see these wildlife, then this is going to be a great place for you. Additionally, Anchorage is really cool because it has that close convenience that a lot of people really do enjoy, but it's also fairly close to a lot of other really important and fun activities that are going on around the state. You can go up to Talkeetna, Seward, Alyeska. I know that's technically within Anchorage, but so far out there is it really? And these are all activities that are within a day trip of Anchorage without having to go too far from Anchorage. So yeah, that's definitely a nice thing about living in Anchorage as well. Now, before we go too much further, let's take a break real quick. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast for those of you who are considering moving to Alaska, where I interview people who have recently moved up and they talk about their experiences, the tips and tricks that they have, and what they think of the state so far as well. So you guys aren't just hearing from me all the time. Now, another thing that I do offer for people as well, if you're moving up here, I do have a relocation guide that kind of gives you the general information about what it's like living up here. If that would be helpful for you, then feel free to reach out to my website in the description section down below and just put relocation guide in the little comment section so I know what to send you. Now, let's talk about the negatives here a little bit, because obviously nowhere is going to be perfect, and anywhere or anyone that tells you that a place is perfect, we all know that person's lying. So let's talk about the negatives. Number one, there is a large homeless population in Anchorage. Now, why is that, you might ask? Why in Alaska, of all places, do you find this high homeless population? Well, number of factors. One of which being that, it's just kind of the policies of the local assembly and how it is that they're trying to handle this issue is not necessarily helping. And if you watch the local news, local politics, you definitely see this is an issue that is becoming more and more divisive and almost a little weaponized in how it's being used in the political sense. But yes, there is definitely a homeless population here. And if you're trying to figure out exactly where it is, I'm a little limited on just how much I can say because I don't want to be accused of steering you one direction or not. Go check out the crime maps, though, and draw your own conclusions. Another negative of living in Anchorage is you really don't get that rustic Alaska feel that you might have if you were living in some small cabin out in the middle of nowhere. Alaska has a lot to offer when it comes to that. When you live in Anchorage, you're really trading that for the convenience of being close to work and shopping and everything else. So if that's more important to you, great. You can go visit all that other stuff on the weekend. If it's not, then Anchorage might not be a good fit for you. Now, I'm sure you've probably surmised from my previous videos that one of the negatives here is also just the management of local politics. And some people believe this has become so bad in Anchorage, specifically with the level of the assembly, that there actually is a movement in Eagle River, which is actually a large suburb of Anchorage, to actually break away from the municipality just because, well, for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest being that it's just felt like it's been pretty mismanaged. And you can go find out about this movement online at Eagle Exit. You can just look it up. I'm sure it'll pop up. And you can find more information about it from there. But yes, just a sense of the mismanagement of local politics here is definitely something I'd put in the negative column. Cost of living in Anchorage is going to be high. That being said, though, wages are also going to be higher in Anchorage. So you just kind of have to weigh that out a little bit and decide, what's going to be more important to you. You can live outside of Anchorage and work inside of Anchorage and kind of get that higher wage and get the lower cost of living somewhere else. You are going to be driving for it, though. It is going to be a longer commute, probably about 30-40 minutes, usually on average. So you just have to decide if that's worth it to you. Additionally, property taxes are going to be fairly high in Anchorage. Now, to give you an idea, I have a pretty sizable fourplex over in Eagle River, and I'm paying about $1,000 a month on property taxes there. Now, it all pencils out, it makes sense and all that, but that's just to give you an idea. Yes, the property taxes are going to be higher in Anchorage than what it's going to be in most other places. So what I said before about how the sales tax, there's no sales tax in Anchorage, but they make up for it in other ways. This is how they make up for it. They have higher property taxes. Last but not least, and this is something that actually became a pretty big deal this past winter, but the snow can take a while to get removed. And even if it is removed, it's still kind of a mess on the roads over in Anchorage. And this became very obvious this past year, just with all the snow that we had. And it just took weeks, I believe, in some places to actually remove all the snow from the roads. And even when they did, they just piled them up in some places to the point where it was too much snow. And then the city came in and like fined businesses because there was too much snow in their parking lot. And it was just an overall mess. So across the board, yeah, that's not great, because a good portion of our year, obviously, there's going to be snow on the road. So is Anchorage going to be a good place for you to go? Unfortunately, I can't answer that for you. But these are going to be some of the pros and cons that I can see. And, I'm sure someone can come up here and they'd probably come up with a completely different list of their pros and cons, and that's perfectly fine. These are the things that I'm seeing, though. And based off of these, I'm going to let you make your own decision. If you do have any further questions that would help you answer that question for yourself, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to chat and see how best I can help. But for everyone else, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.